From now on, I'll start presenting my thesis. The title of this paper is A Latent Profile Analysis of University Students' Core Competencies. And this presentation is conducted in the order of introduction, theoretical background, research results, and conclusion. OECD defined core competencies as the competencies essential for everyone to lead a successful life throughout their entire life, and emphasize the enhancement of core competencies through education. Countries around the world are applying competency-based curriculum to higher education as well as elementary and secondary education. And it is necessary to diagnose and evaluate students' core competencies to confirm the effectiveness of the competency-based curriculum. In particular, it is important to develop and apply a core competency diagnosis tool suitable for each university. As its higher education institutions has different founding ideology, talent image, vision, and so on. In addition, it is required to clarify identify the level of each student's competencies by using the core competency diagnosis tool, and to provide a desired curriculum and support for school life for student growth. Scalable human resource is the image that a particular society in a particular era ultimately seek and want to create through education. However, the talent required by the times change with changes in social culture and technological evolution. In the past, talents with more knowledge than others were prepared. Recently, however, so-called creative convergence talents who create new value by fusion of various knowledge. As for prepared creative convergence, talent can be defined as a person who can create new knowledge by combining humanities, imagination, scientific, technological creativity, and light personality, and who can create new value by fusion of various knowledges. 2020 In 2020 century, self-management competency, community capability, aesthetic, emotional capability, knowledge, information processing capability, and creative convergence thinking capability are required for society. In fact, the Ministry of Education announced that the goal of the 2015 revision curriculums was to foster creative convergence talents, which indicates that the core competencies of talents established by the OECD in 1997 through the DESECO project will be transformed from a knowledge-based society to an intelligent information technology society. It can be understood as an effort to reflect new capability according to the changed situation. In the sense of the higher education institutions are given the public responsibility of nurturing talent who will lead social value. They not only systematically educate specialized knowledge in their majors, but also creative fusion of knowledge and information, ability to solve problem, communication. They have a responsibility to develop them into future talent with the ability to utilize information. Therefore, in order to nurture talent that lead social change, universities need to select core competencies suitable for each university's talent profile and educational environment and prepare an educational environment while reflect them. To this end, each university should comprehensively consider the university's founding ideology, human research, educational goals, resources, and characteristics of current students to select and diagnose core competencies so that students can actually acquire core competencies. Therefore, this study aims to diagnose the core competencies through the students of University A, classify the potential group of college students according to the question response, and then identify the learning achievement level of college students belonging to each group. Of this is to provide the details and customized educational environment for each potential group and to improve the quality of education by examining ways to support the deficiencies of individual college students in the development of core competencies. The research questions to achieve the purpose of the study are as follows. First, how many potential profiles are classified according to the core competencies of University A students, and what are the characteristics of each potential group? Second, what is the effect of the determinant gender, age, field of study, on the potential profiles according to the core competencies of University A students? Third, what is the difference in academic achievement level among potential profiles classified according to the core competencies of University A students? Second, theoretical background. 1. Core competencies of college students. Demands for competency-based education is increasing as interest in improving the quality of university education is increasing due to trends in the image of future talent due to social changes caused by the first industrial revolution and the new normal and the generalization of university education. Universities around the world are focusing on core competencies that enhance educational effectiveness and excellence by defining the basic competencies that college students must have in order to nurture understanding talents. It is not easy to define the core competencies of a university student in that they are closely related to the resource and environment of the times, society, and culture. However, it can be said to be a specific ability and attitude required to perform a specific task. In this regard, Dong-Wook Lim defined the ability to act as a competitive advantage for set of the individual functions and skills rather than a single functions or skill as a core competency. In the meantime, various attempts have been made to select and diagnose the core competencies of college students in the field of higher education. In the early days, the importance of competencies was emphasized by the DESECO project conducted by the OECD. The latter, the Assessment of Higher Education Learning Outcomes, was launched to improve the learning outcome of university students. The focus was on the evaluation of the university competencies and the provision of consulting to improve the educational function of the university. In the United States, the Collegiate Learning Assessment CLA, hotel in GSA, and in Korea, the Korean Vocational Competency Development Institute are centered the examining the core competencies and educational performance of college students. As such, core competencies in university education have been recognized as one of the evaluation indicators for the fulfillment of the university's social responsibilities of nurturing outstanding talent. And it is mainly related to the diagnosis and management of educational outcomes. In particular, in the evaluation of the basic competency of university conducted by the Ministry of Education, it is stated that core competencies are set by its university according to the characteristics of the university and refer to the general competencies required of students in the higher education stage. For this purpose, it is responsible for providing various support for competency enhancement in connection with the subject and non-subject curriculum. 2.2 Core competencies of universities and academic achievement. In order to look at the components of core competencies, it is necessary to look at the DESCO project first. DESCO defined core competencies as interactive use tools, interaction with heterogeneous groups, and autonomous behavior. In the OECD lead, PIACs and problem-solving ability in a computer environment are sub-elements of core competencies. It has been defined and measured as from the point of view of the ability to retrieve excellent results in the process of performing a job by viewing core competencies as knowledge, skills, and attitudes possessed by an individual. In Korea, beyond the concept of skill and functions to perform a job, human it is viewed as a concept that encompassed the skills, knowledge, skill, and attitudes necessary to solve problems in various environments. Now, a university is a place that establishes the universal value required via the time and leads the times and creates knowledge and wisdom for the better development of the national society. We have the responsibility to systematically nurture and produce manpower with core competencies required in the changing environment of the future in consideration of the future trends and future trends. Therefore, it has become difficult for universities to respond to change in knowledge and skills and change in the labor market by only educating major knowledge or skills as in the past. As a result, universities around the world provide excellent subject and extracurricular courses, and provide various knowledge and skills required by society, so that students can develop specialization in their majors, solve social problems, lead others through convergence thinking, and manage conflict. You have to have the capacity to do it. In other words, universities need to be recognized into a curriculum that can balance core cognitive and non-cognitive competencies that emphasize the importance of professional knowledge, creativity, sociality, and personality, and grow into future talent who can demonstrate creative ability. Research methods. 3.1 Research model. The study explores potential profiles according to core competencies by setting the core competencies of college students, such as humanity, communication, global competency, creative competency, and professional competency as observation variables. Measured in. Furthermore, it was investigated whether there was a difference in the students' academic performance leveled by potential profile. The research model is shown in Figure 1. 3.2. The subject of this study were 1,000 students enrolled at University A in Seoul. The survey was conducted for 5 days from April 12th and 16th, 2021. And before the survey, consent was obtained from the subject to participate in the survey. Among the survey results, 17 cases of insincere response were excluded, and 983 responses were finally used for analysis. The general characteristics of the study participants were presented in the table. 3.3 Measuring tool. In 2014, University A set an image of talents and educational goal based on the result of survey of the options of university's members, including graduates and the appearance of talents required by society, and selected core competencies based on them. In this process, 4 talents were established: people who practice, collaborators who communicate, people for future, and creative professionals. And creative competency and professional competency were selected. The purpose of university education is to equip university students with core competencies through the university curriculums and various experience of university life, and educational outcomes are possible through the substantiation of the curriculum and learning experience through the ideal of talent. Therefore, in order to have a system capable of diagnosing and managing the core competencies of college student, a core competency diagnosis tool has been developed and utilized. Per First tool is humanity competencies. Second tool is communication competency. Third competency is global competency. Fourth tool is creative competency. Fifth tool is professional competency. 3.3 is analytical procedure and method. First, using the N+8 program, latent profile analysis was performed to identify the type of latent class according to the core competencies of college students. And the number of potential classes was derived by analyzing the core competency, focusing on the 5 core competencies. First is humanity competence, second is communication, third is global, fourth is creative, and fifth is professional, which were established by reflecting the purpose and vision of University A and the ideal of talent. In order to determining the number of latent layers, AIC and BIC and SSABIC, and statistical significance and entropy index, which information fit indices were referred to for statistical significance testing, LRT and BLRT. And the model that best explained the classification between groups were finally selected. Next, using the SPSS 26 program, the differences in the characteristics of each latent profiles were analyzed, and in order to analyze the difference in the characteristics between the latent classes in more details, and differences by potential profile were analyzed through the gender, grade, and major of college students. First is research result. Paper 4.1 Descriptive Statistical Analysis. People are conducting potential profile analysis according to the humanity competency, community competency, global competency, creative competency, and professional competency, composed of the core competencies of University A. Correlations between relative variables are investigated, and descriptive statistical analysis was performed. First, as a result of correlation analysis, its variables show the statistically significant positive relationships with other factors between 0.448 and 0.704. As a result of descriptive statistical analysis, the average communication competency was 3.99, followed by creative competency is 3.96, and humanity competency is 3.85, and last, professional competency is 3.84, and global 3.58. The absolute value of skewness and kurtosis of its factor did not exceed 2 and 8. So it was judged that the standard values were satisfied. 4.2 Determination of the number of potential profiles. In order to determine the number of latent profiles according to the diagnosis result of college students' core competency, an unconditional model without exogenous variables was first analyzed. Then the conditional model that included variables expected to affect latent profile classification as covariates was analyzed. The three-step approach was used in order to determine the number of latent layers, the information index, verification result, and statistical significance and changes in the quality of classification were comprehensively examined while increasing the number of layers by one. The analysis results are presented in table below. Quality of the classification was checked through the posterior hierarchical membership probability. In general, it can be said that the classification is relatively accurate when the probability of belonging to the posterior class is 0.7 or higher. Looking at the diagonal of the matrix presented in the table, group 1 was 19.9%, group 2 was 93.5%, and group 3 was 93.4%. Since all of the hierarchical classification probability were 0.8 or higher, which was close to 1, it was confirmed that the hierarchical classification was performed correctly. And 3.2 Latent profile characteristics of course evaluation. According to the figures, 3 potential classes were classified, and for each class, Tier 1 was named the upper group, Tier 2 was the middle group, and Tier 3 was the lower group. The form of the potential layers extracted according to the humanity, communication, global, creative, and professional competencies constituting core competency is shown, and details technical status are presented in next table. And next, 4.3 verification of factors affecting core competencies. Multinomial logistic regression analysis was performed to verify the influence on the latent profile classification by including independent variables in the final model, from which 3 latent profiles were derived. This is the method in which each group is set as the proper reference group and compared with the rest of the group. First, the upper group of core competencies is set as the reference group. Gender is female, grade is first grade, and major field is art and physical education, and reference group. Influencing factor was verified. Details result are shown this table. Finally, the difference in student academic achievement levels were analyzed for each potential profiles, and detailed results are presented in this table. For the analysis, student academic achievement was set as the final outcome variables of the core competencies subfactors: humanity, communication, global, creative, and professional competency. and the difference between groups in the level of academic achievement for each potential profile were verified. As a result of the analysis for the academic achievement measured as a highest score of 4.50 was 3.85. In the upper groups, 3.78 in the median group, and 3.69 in the lower group. Fifth, conclusion. The purpose of this study is to diagnose the core competencies of college students and classify the classes profiles through the latent profile analysis techniques. In addition, it is to check the characteristics of each classified potential layer and explore the influence factors. For this purpose, the core competency diagnosis result of 817 students of students A were used. First, a potential profile analysis was performed to classify the latent class of sub-factors of the core competency. As a result, the total of three heterogeneous latent profiles were classified, and the core competency upper class and middle class and lower class were named, reflecting the characteristic of its potential profiles. And next, multinomial logistic regression analysis was performed by imputing student-specific gender, grade, and major field as independent variables to verify what were the significant influencing factors on the classified latent classes. As a result of the analysis, when the upper group of core competencies was set as the reference group, the students' gender and major were found to be significant factors in the comparison between groups. In the comparison between the upper group and the median groups, middle groups, when the gender was female and the science and engineering major, the probability of belonging the middle group was high. The difference in students' academic achievement level were analyzed for each potential profiles. For the analysis, student academic achievement was set as the final outcome variables of core competencies of factors: humanity, communication, global, creative, and professional competency. And the difference between groups, the level of academic achievement for each potential profiles were verified. As a result of analysis, the highest score of 4.80 was measured in the upper group, 7.85 in the middle group, and 3.69 in the lower group, confirming that college students with good core competencies had higher academic achievement than those without. The significance of this study based on the analysis result is follows. First, this study is significant in that it defines the core competencies of college students and examines how the factors affecting the core competencies affect academic achievement, while in-depth understanding of the core competencies pursued by universities is required. Second, From the methodological point of view, individual characteristics of college students for each sub-factor of core competency were reflected in the analysis. The true potential profile analysis, students were classified into several potential groups through the core competencies of University A. The student target. In addition, humanity, communication, global, creative, and professional competency, which constitute core competency, are judged as sub-elements of core competencies, and their influence in various contexts is examined. And core competencies are analyzed in relation to academic achievement for each potential profile. By doing so, a plan was sought to secure the quality and excellence of university education. Finally, the limitation of this study and suggestion for follow-up studies are followed. First, this study has a limitation in applying or generalizing the result of this study to other universities, in that only students enrolled in University A were selected as a research subject. Therefore, it is hoped that the follow-up students' studies will be able to derive more meaningful research results by including college students attending various universities in the scope of the research. And second, this study is cross-sectional study conducted at the specific point in time in April 2021. Therefore, it is a result of some limitation in seeking sustainable ways to improve the quality of university education and secure excellence. Therefore, it is hoped that the follow-up study will be able to comprehensively examine the effectiveness and impact of the core competency by conducting multiple surveys through the longitudinal study method and examining the aspect of college student competencies strengthening through the education linked to core competency over time. Thank you for your listening. Thank you.